I watch a lot of I watch a lot of these videos and these things like this, and a lot of the Hebrew Israelite community doesn't even. I mean, I'm not one of these people. Oh, well, they don't got this, they don't got that. But it's like there's no musar.
Hmm.
There's no
Yeah.
musar. There's no like. There's no Kabbalah. There's no
Hmm.
text. I mean, like you can't learn from a guy from Spain.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
500 years ago. You know what I mean? You can't
Non
do that. You know what I
divorce.
mean? Like what's the information blockage in our community? Like you wouldn't want to read somebody who's European, someone who's they're not talking to you. They're talking to their cousin.
Hmm.
They're talking to their fellow congregant. They're giving all their goodies over, right? So this whole notion that white people are trying to trick us and this and what, which is a very fair thing in America. I mean, it is a fair thing. It's not coming out of nowhere, and it's not like the Jewish community, has been, you know, there's been Jewish activists, right? And Jewish activists, played big, roles with, the civil rights movement and different organizations. But the Jewish community has not made an effort to connect to the Black community, right? And so that dynamic for Black people, they just see them as white people. Like, I mean, they may
Hmm.
dress a little bit different and may
Same
have
thing.
different, names. They may not be Peter Smith, but Shlomi Klein is the same thing. You know what I mean by them,
Hmm.
right? So,
Hmm.
so anyway, so the point. So I think a lot of that has to do with when people explore Judaism or the Torah. They feel like, nah, nah, that's not for me, and then they make it like the parts of the Talmud that are very controversial, right? Things that
Hmm.
I still don't even understand. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like I don't understand, and I don't even know if my rabbis even understand. Like, what is the basis of some of these things? Do they actually mean that point? I don't know. I never learned those in I never learned those sugyot that you hear Sanhedrin and upon the one, women this. Hey, I don't know. You know what I mean? But the point is just saying that don't use that to block out all of Jewish literature
Hmm.
for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, you don't mess with the Talmud or it's weird to you. You don't get it. Okay, fine, but like, don't block wisdom. Don't block information. Don't think you're going to that university and that professor ain't racist. So why you listen to him? You know what I mean? Like,
You
anyways,
know the
all right.
thing.
So, what are
One
you gonna
one
say on
one
that?
thing one thing on that though.
Mm,
It's like if the Hebrew Israelite community found out that the writers of the Talmud look like us,
yeah.
would you have a different approach with it? And it's like if you do, then you already your framework of approach is already, what I'm saying, not on the right level. Oh, if it's a black man, well, it's different. So it's like, man, this is wisdom. This is Hashem. Forget the color, forget all that, and that's why. Well, we'll talk about it later. Rob. I don't want to extend it too much, but a lot of it's just getting stuck up on racism. And it's like, look, this moved out the way, and let's get this wisdom, this divine wisdom that Hashem's put for us. Like everything else will get worked out. It get worked out. Trust me, it get worked out.
It's like it's
Just
like
funny.
it's like yeah, 100%. And it's like imagine people not wanting to listen to King David because of his role in the family,
Mm,
right?
mm-hmm,
Or Moshe Rabbeinu,
mm-hmm,
or any, you know what I mean, or any of these guys that we hear these stories about. They were not recognized people growing up.
right.
You know what I mean? They weren't people that they just they weren't people that were connected to the collective. And so when we look at that, we just got to look and say like, maybe that's our issue as a community, that we focus too much on skin tone and not values, right? Because
Mm-hmm,
how many black politicians have we had in our community that you know sold us out? You know what I mean? So activists, preachers, so like just because someone's black, does that mean that? Right now,
mm-hmm,
there is an idea that if someone's black, there isn't a chance of a higher level of empathy, right? Because we understand each other's struggles for sure. But in general, like, you gotta deal with people and their values, man. Like all that other, like I even tell these guys, bro, like I know the base principle is getting married is being attractive, but you gotta make sure you have the same values. Anyways, sorry. So this is the first chapter. We did the introduction, Pass of the Just, Mesillat, Yesharim, right? And so, in that first chapter, he was basically building this understanding that there's certain ideas and attributes that, we think are just very simple, but they're not, because a lot of these things are built. A lot of these things aren't our natural nature, right? Like we think being kind is our natural nature. Yes, doing an act of kindness could be our natural nature, but to be kind is something you have to work at, right? To love, right? You can express love, but to give, to be a channel of love is something you have to work on. So he was saying that many of these different attributes that we have, the purpose of this safer is to bring us to a place where we know that one, these are things that we have to develop, and two, using the technology, using the Torah, utilizing the mitzvot, utilizing the kedusha of Shabbat and Yom Tovim and Rosh Chodesh and fast days and all these other things that we have going on, and then be able to connect to that, right? And to be able to connect to that and say like, hey, you know what? This is who I am, and you could build these faculties and these aspects of ourselves that on our own we wouldn't be able to do. And this is the glory of God. So it says, Beve ur laklala chovat ha'adama be'olamo. So he says like this: the foundation of pity and the root of perfect service of God, right? Because that's what we're trying to get to. We want to be higher than the angels, right? We want to be in a perfect state of connection to God. The perfect service of God is for a man to clarify and come to realize as truth what is his obligation in this world, right? This is what we're trying to get to. What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to change the world? How am I supposed to leave my impression on this reality? And so he says, and as truth, what is his obligation role? And to what is he needs to direct his gazes and and his aspirations in all that he toils in all the days of his life. All right. So these like we're talking about when we were learning with your wife. These are the questions our children, we should be building children on, not how to be workers, how to get in touch with themselves, right? What am I feeling? What feels right to me? What am I inspired by? These are terms. So vehine ma shehorunu chachamenu lezikaronama librachahu she'adam lo nivara elek. So he says, behold, what our sages of blessed memory have taught us is that man was created solely for the delight in God and to derive pleasure in the radiance of the Shekinah. For this is true. For this is the true delight and the greatest pleasure that can possibly exist. The place of the place of this pleasure is, in truth, in Olam Haba. Okay. So he says, for this, she said, for this is the true delight and greatest pleasure that can possibly exist. The place of this pleasure is truly in Olam Haba. So the true pleasure, the ultimate pleasure is in Olam Haba, right? And that should give us a certain peace for people in our lives that, like are living the next world, our teachers, our relatives, and they are where the true pleasure is. For it has created expressly for this purpose. So he says, ka derech kade lehagia el makoz kafa seinu ze hu ze olam. So he says, so he brings the Psalms, but the path to arrive at the desired heaven. Okay, let's try to understand this. He says of ours is this world. Okay, so the path to arrive at the desired heaven of our is this world. I'm not sure exactly. I don't think the English is so great. But hold on, let me see what they say on this. Okay. So he's bringing, okay, so the Psalms that he's bringing, he says, they rejoiced when all was quiet, and he brought them to the port and that they desired. Okay. Okay, and this Mishnah, let's see what the Mishnah is saying. Rabbi Jacob says this world is like a what is it called? Vegetable, not a vegetable, visible before the world to come. Prepare yourself in a visible so you may enter the banquet. Okay. So anyway, so this is the idea. So these two verses, one is from Pure Caravot, which at some point we're going to start learning. Very another classic. I'm sure you heard of it, Ethics of the Fathers. So he's bringing one from Psalms and one from this, and this is supporting that. So the sage of Blessed Memory said the world is like a corridor before the world to come. So we have to understand that this world is a vehicle. That's it, right? It's like, here in Israel, like public transportation is like a huge thing, right? Like not like America, especially LA. I think maybe in the Midwest, I don't know. But in LA, you got to have a car, right? Because everything's so wide and big and flat. And so hilly, depending where you're at, that there's people standing at bus stops all the time, right? And you're waiting for that bus to come, and that bus is going to come and take you to another destination. And you see like different relationships that people have with the bus before it comes. Some people come early, some people know exactly when the bus is coming, and they just pull up like 20 seconds before. And then there's people who are far away that are running to the bus, right? And so if you knew what time the bus was coming, you would probably maybe even be there early, right? Or at least on time, right? But unfortunately, most of us don't understand time. We don't understand even the destination, right? And so we get a glimpse of movement and then we react and want to join in. And that's the person running to the bus. The bus in this context represents the vehicle to the next world, which is this world that we're in now, right? But utilizing this world the right way is being at the bus stop, right? And being prepared for that journey. So with us, by this, we have to have in mind that this world is just a vehicle for the next world. We want to utilize this world for as many mitzvahs as possible, right? As many mitzvahs, not just for us, but even the people who came before us who didn't have the opportunity to do mitzvahs, right? And so we want to be able to have that in mind. Okay, so it says ve. So it says ve ha em sa'imaha mi gi'ima et ha'adam le. Sorry, la lachlit hazeh. Same biblical Hebrew. This is expanded. So it says like this. So he says the means that lead a person to his goal are the commandments which the blessed okay, the means that led a person to this goal are the commandments which the blessed God commanded of us to us. The place of the performance of these mitzvahs is only in this world. Therefore, man was first placed in this world so that through these means prepared him for here. So therefore, man was first placed in this world so that through these means prepare him for he will be able to reach the prepared place for him, namely the world to come, right? That's it. You wake up in the morning, you prepare a bed, and then you leave, and then you go to work, and then you come back, and then that bed's there for you. So it's the same thing. We leave the heavens, was already prepared perfectly, and then we come into this world, and then after 120, we return to that same place. So he says the world to come is slated with the good. He said there will be slated with the good which he acquired through these means. This is what our sages of blessed memory say today to do them, and tomorrow to receive the reward. All right. So he says like the sages of blessed memory said, it says this in the Talmud, Yeruvin. It says today to do them, and tomorrow to receive their reward. right? So all the mitzvahs what we do. So it was an interesting thing, and I remember a rabbi from my yeshiva, Rabbi Breitowitz. I remember on one Shabbat night, he said something that I never forgot it. He says, every single thing that you can think about or ask for in this world, anything that you could think about, anything you can desire, it's only for the sake of a mitzvah. It just blew me away. So if a guy wants to be rich, why does he want to be rich? So he could do mitzvahs with the money. The guy was the most beautiful girl in the world. Okay, the only thing you could gain from that relationship is mitzvahs. If you have pleasure for the sake of pleasure and nothing to do with God, then it's evil, right? So the only thing a guy can do is pleasure. You're going to start a business. I mean, the only thing he can do is mitzvahs. So a guy starts a business. Oh, I want to start a big company, the biggest company. Why? The company better do mitzvahs, or it's evil. So anything that we desire is only for the sake of doing mitzvahs. That's it. Money, women, intimacy, traveling, experiences, different mitzvahs. That's it. If you traveled somewhere and you did no mitzvahs, right? So you say you go to Ibiza, whatever they call this place, this island place. Drake talks about it. So you go there, and Drake goes there, and he has drinks. He has some girls. Maybe they do some drugs. Whatever. Maybe he listens to some music, some clubs. But what mitzvahs did he do when he was there? And if he didn't do mitzvahs that he was there, that means he didn't elevate any of the sparks. So what's the purpose of traveling if you're not elevating sparks? Now, maybe Drake did a mitzvah because he was kind to somebody. But if he didn't do it for the sake of Hashem, it's not even a mitzvah, right? If a person walks down the street, I heard this from Rabbi Maklis, who's a really big sage here in Israel, in Jerusalem specifically, a humongous host. This family has a reputation for being the biggest host for Shabbat holidays, maybe in the whole city, right? And he says something once that his wife said. He says, the guy's walking down the street, right? A guy's walking down the street and he has, say, $10 in his pocket, right? And so he sees a person and he gives him tzedakah, right? He gives him his 10%, right? So he asks the question, how much money does he have? Some people, a Gentile would say he has $9. But a Jew would say he has $1. Because the only thing that we have that matters is the thing that connects to the mitzvah. That's the money in the Shemaim. The money in Shemaim is there. You stand in front of Hashem. You say, hey, you know what, Hashem? I may have made this mistake. I did this. But with consciousness, I did tzedakah, and all those coins, right, can testify on your behalf and say, yep, he did it. Hashem, he did do that. He did. He could have went out and indulged and did this and did that, but he honored that mitzvah. He did do that. So that goes for everybody, right? It goes for everybody. So he says, "Ooh, keshti." So look at these words. Hold on. So it says, "Ooh, keshti sa tachel ba daver tera eki maha." Mahashlemut Mahamiti Hu Rach Hadbekut Abo Yit Barak. So Yit Barak. So he says, when you look further into the matter, you will see that the true perfection lies only in clinging to God. This is what King David said, but as for me, closeness to God is my good. And one thing I add, okay, so this is Psalms. So he brings a verse from Psalms, and King David says like this: but as for me, closeness to God is my good. And he says, and one thing I ask from God that I seek, that I may dwell in his house, and all the days of my life to gaze on his pleasantness of God. For only this is the good, while anything besides that people consider good is really emptiness and mistaken worthlessness. I think we talked about this second. So that's the idea, is to say, like, no, we have to reprogram ourselves. We are in this world to do mitzvahs. That's it. Work is a mitzvah. You're only going to work so you have a roof over your head, and so you could have a wife, and you can provide shelter for her, right? The work is really for her, right? Even if she works, it's still it's still the payroll of the balabayit, right? Which is the katan, right? And so that role that he plays in that house, whatever comes in is his, right? He administers that, right? So the thing is saying this idea of, you see commercials, luxury lifestyles of the rich and famous never talked about Hashem. They never spoke about it. They had a show on MTV years ago. I hope I'm not aging myself. Cribs never talked about Hashem, right? And so this idea of wanting things that have nothing to do with the service of Hashem, this is where we need to be aware of. He says he says, for only this is the good, while anything besides this that people consider good is really emptiness and mistaken worthless. Amanam lekashiye zeke ha'adam letova hazot re'ui she'i amal l'rish onam ve'ishta ta del igi od likanora likanota. She says, for a person to obtain this good is proper that he first exerts himself strenuously to acquire it, namely to exert himself to cling to the blessed God through the power of the deeds whose consequences is this end. These deeds are the commandments. והנה שמו הקדוש ברוך הוא לאדם במקום שרבים בו המרקיקים אותו ממנו ויתברך. She says, the Holy One, blessed be he, puts man in a place where the factors which distance him from the blessings of God are numerous. These are the physical lust, which if he is drawn after them, behold, he draws away and goes even further from the true good. So he says, thus we see that man is truly placed in the midst of a raging battlefield for all matters of this world, whether it's good or for bad, are trials for man. Poverty from the side, for one side, versus wealth from another side. This is what Shlomo said. Let I be sustained and deny you and say, who is God? Or lest I be poor and steal. He says in Proverbs, tranquility is on one hand versus suffering in another, until the battle is waged against him from the front and from the rear. Sound like Israel right now, no? And so this is so he's saying like this. He's saying, hey, manhood is dealing with adversity. Bottom line. And adversity is not just suffering and being in poverty. Adversity could be very wealthy, successful, and famous, right? Because you could also lose your world to come in that, just like you could lose your world to come as a poor person that feels he needs to steal and do whatever to live, right? So these are both tests of men, right? And we have to go through these tests and to be able to say, this is total chaos, and it looks like everything's lost. It looks like I failed. It looks like nothing is going to be retrieved. And I can look at this whole experience and say, you know what? It's a lie. Hashem loves me. The universe loves me. And everything that Hashem creates is for my greatness, for me to reach my potential. So right now, if I only have enough money for this, or if I have too much money, right? It's only a test from Hashem. And test is there to make me into the person that we originally talked about in the beginning of this chapter, which is a person who knows who they are. A person who has that sense of true confidence, not the confidence that comes from third parties saying you are a degree and you are successful. No, internal confidence. Like if you notice, like people who are addicted to things always have self-esteem issues, right? And the reason why is because they don't feel they have control over themselves. Ve'im yehiyeh laven chayila ve'ni natzach, right? It's not netzach, natzach. Ha mid kama mikol. So he says, if he will be a man of valor, emerging from the victory valor, the victories, being a man of valor. You always hear about the woman of valor. All right, so he says, a man of valor, emerging from these battles, right, bro? You know how many times people tried to come and take me out, bro? A lot, a lot on this journey, bro. Like people coming up, this, blah, 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 blah. And I'm totally in a vulnerable situation, right? And I've emerged victoriously, only through God's will. So he says he will be the Adam Hashalom. So we emerge from these battles. What is this battle? What is the battle? The battle is dealing with difficulty? No. The battle is dealing with the perception of difficulty. The battle is dealing with the perception of success. No, we are not. We are one with the Shem, and we're here to serve God. So if success comes and tells you that's not who you are anymore, you know it's from the dark side. If what you perceive as lack of success, right, is coming at you and telling you anything other than that you're one with God, that is also from the dark side. Anything that does not support your closeness to Hashem is an illusionary reality, right? And when we talk about the 1% reality and the 99% reality, we're talking about the world that we live in is an illusionary reality. It will convince you that the world is about to end. It will convince you, right? They said when Adam sinned with Chava, the organus, the original light of the world, was dimmed. And so he started to see the sun and the moon. And so he started to see the sun decline and this whole process of dark. He thought the world was over. This is the physical world. It will convince us. It will make changes and say, oh, man, you see that change? Get out. Get out. It's dark. All right. So he says like this. If he says a man, if he will be a man of valor, emerging from these battles victorious on all fronts, he will be the Adam Hashalom, a whole perfect man, a Ben Adam, who will merit to cling to his creator and will emerge from this corridor to enter into the place, to enlighten in the light of the eternal light. Ukefi ha shi ur asher kavesha et siroda veta'avotav. He said, according to the extent that he conquers this inclination, this lust, and distance himself from the factors which distance him from good, he exerts himself. So now he's showing us how to build these qualities, how to bring these lights that we need. Hashem says, I know what it's like what is the concept of this blood type diet thing? First of all, I was into this whole blood type diet thing. It's an LA thing. LA people are obsessed with looking good. We all want to look like movie stars, this type of thing, right? So I met this nutritionist, or my parents did. Actually, not even my parents. My mom heard about it through the Kabbalah Center, right? Because everybody at the Kabbalah Center, mom was working for the Kabbalah Center at the time, so the whole story. But the point is just saying that experience, right, was a huge thing. Why am I bringing it up? Because the thing is like this: the blood type diet says like this: your blood gives off certain compounds, certain chemicals, certain nutrients that your body needs to function on. But there's certain things that your body's lacking every day, right? So your diet is supposed to make up for those things, right? So that's what we learn out, right? That your diet is supposed to make up for what you're missing. So in this same way, we're saying that the diet here is the Torah. And the things that we're talking about missing are the lights, right? Are the lights that we need in order to achieve our potential, to truly connect to humility, to truly connect to love, to truly connect to forgiveness, to truly connect to patience, all these attributes that make us great, not the things Asaph wants, but the things Yaakov wants. To connect to these things, we're rewarded by how much we conquer these Yetzer Hara. So if we have one, don't be afraid of it. Don't be ashamed of it. Be like, God gave me this struggle, right? In order for me to conquer it, so I could earn the light that He wants to give to me. Ve'im ta'amik oda ba'i naina tir'e ki ha'olam nivara leshi mush ha'adam. So he says, if you look deeper into the matter, you will see that this world was created for man's use. But behold, man stands on a great balance. If he is drawn after the world and distance himself from the Creator, behold, corruption, he corrupted himself and corrupted the world with him. But if he rules over himself, like being a man, this is saying, I'm not controlled by my genitals. I'm not controlled by my mind. I'm not controlled from past experiences. Every day I wake up anew. Now, there may be reminders of those experiences that come into my life that may make me want to think a certain way or act a certain way, but it's not who I am. I am pure. She said, but if you look at the matter deeper, he says, but if he rules over himself and clings to the Creator and uses the world only as an aid to serve his Creator, then he elevates himself. He elevates himself and elevates the world with him. So when they say every person is a world, now we understand. For all of creation, for all creations are greatly elevated when they serve the Adam HaShalom. Okay, I know exactly where you got the verse. Okay, so who is sanctified? Who is sanctified with holiness from blessed be He. So when we are those men, right? When we're living in perfect righteousness, when we're living in that, literally, this is the basis of creation, right? And there's actually an interesting Gemara I may bring the I think we already learned this Gemara. So it says Vehu ka anayin ma she amru chachamenu zikaronam livraka be'inayin ha'ora meshegi zod hakadosh baruch hu alesadikim veze eleshonam. So he says, this is like what our sages of blessed memory regarding the light which God stored away to the righteous. When he saw that the light which he stored away for the righteous, he rejoiced, as is written, the light of the righteous. So we know in that light became concealed in the beginning, the organus. We just talked about that. Uve ni naina ve'neha makom shekalachach v'yachol v'sham Mar Shotava Amru. So he says, Hulin Samek Vav. So Samek Bet. So he says like this. So in regards, he says, in regards to the stone of the place which Yaakov placed under his head, the Midrash says, Rabbi, the Midrash, that says the Midrash, right? So Yaakov put the stones under his head because the Torah doesn't, I don't know if it says it gathers. Anyway, so the Midrash expounds to say he put the stones under his head, Dafka, right? And we read the Baal Shem Tov where all of Israel folded up underneath him because all the sparks of a place that we're supposed to elevate, we may not be able to travel the land, all the places, but if we learn Torah there, we elevate all the sparks without physically walking every part of the land. Like we're elevating sparks right now. So he says, Rabbi Yitzhak says, this teaches us that they gather together in together in one place, each one saying, let the righteous man lay his head upon me. Vehine al ha'ikar hazeh ha'irunu zikaronam livracha be midrash Kohelet. Okay, so he says, our sages arouse us to this fundamental principle in Midrash Kohelet, saying, see the work of God. when the Holy One, blessed be, created Adam, he took him and led him to pass before the trees of the Garden of Eden, and said to him, "See how beautiful and excellent my works. All that I've created for your sake. Be careful that you do not become corrupted and destroy my world." Klalo shel daver ha'adam lo nivara ba'avur masvod ba'olam hazeh alem. So he says the general principle of this matter: man was not created for this sake in his world, but rather for the sake in the world to come. Only that this only that only that this state in this world is the means towards the state of the world to come, which is the ultimate purpose. So this world is just a vehicle. That's it. Just like the bus is taking you to a destination. That's it. We're just this world is just a vehicle. So all the things that they want to make eternal, like when you see someone standing on stage and where they had the Oscars last night, and they're holding on stage and and you know what? It doesn't mean anything. It was all hype. It was all glitz and glamour. It was a nakash, right? Making us believe that that is an accomplishment. Right? You own television, you put it in all of our houses, and then you control what shows we watch, and then we watch it over and over again with these themes of happiness, success, fulfillment, pleasure, until we say, "Hey, that's it." Like, look at the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, right? The Drug Enforcement Agency generally revolves in a frame of repossessions. They repossess things from drug dealers, and then they take those things to an auction, or they keep the cash and they use that to pay salaries, right? So in order for that to work, in order for that to work, that means the people of the community have to do things that would allow the DEA to have things to take to the auction. They actually have to have things. So guess what? Television comes along and tells black men, you need this type of a car. It needs to have this type of rims. It needs to have this type of stereo system. You need to have these gold chains. You need to have these diamond rings. You need to have these things in your house, right? And not only that, they got this whole thing now where just have tons of cash. No bank, nothing. Just have 40 racks in the house, 50 racks in the house, and then have it laid out. Look how many racks I got. All that the DEA takes. They come and collect all that. That's how they're paying salaries. But how does the guy know what it is to be a dope boy? How does he know how it is to look and live this way? Through television. But television is working in conjunction with law enforcement. Why? Because people who own television also own prisons and jails. So it's a business, right? So we look at this false reality that shows us all these images, and we think we could look at the black kid and be like, "Yeah, that black kid, why couldn't he figure it out? Why he get the gold chain?" That's how all society is. They tell you this is what it is to be in the suburbs. This is what it is to be in upper middle class. This is what it is to be rich. This is what it is to be poor. And they create a whole matrix around it. Al ken timsa me amre chachamenu zikaronam. So he says, hence, you will find many statements of our sages, blessed memory, all along similar lines, comparing this world to a place and time of preparation, while the next world is compared to a place of reset and eating what has already been prepared. For instance, they say this world is like a corridor, says in Pirkei Avot. As I wrote earlier, today for their performance and tomorrow they receive the reward. It says in Avodah Zarah, he who toils on Friday will eat on Shabbat. It says, obviously, right? It says in Kohelet, right? Rabbah. So he says, this world is like the shore and the next world is like the sea. And many other statements along the same line. Tir ואמת שחבר לא יוכל שום בעל שיכול להאמין שתכלית ברית האדם הוא למסוות העולם הזה. And so he says, indeed you can see that no rational person can possibly believe that the purpose of man's creation is for this existence in this world, and for what is man's life in this world, who is truly happy and content in his world. So let's see it again. There's no rational person who could possibly believe that the purpose of man's creation is for the existence in this world. What is man's life in this world? Who is truly happy and content in this world? I don't know anybody who's truly happy and content. Everybody I know is dealing with something, right? Right. I mean, there's moments. Like I remember my wedding day, that night I was in celebration. Those are happy moments. Even moments on a holiday, you have a certain connection. You feel it, but every day, all day, come on. He said the days of our life are 70 years, and if by strength 80 years, yet the span is not but toil and trouble. Says that in Psalms. Bekama mine asa arvechalaim umika ovim utera dot ve'acher kol zot. He says, how many sort of distress and sicknesses, pains and burdens, and after all of that, death, not one in 1,000 can be found to whom this world has granted plenty of pleasures and in true commencement. Okay, how many distress and burdens and sickness are there in the world? Not one of in 1,000 can be found to whom the world has granted plenty of pleasures. That's what makes us a human nature. We're all going through this together, where no one has it better. I grew up around kids who had, where parents were very successful, but they were all on drugs. We had the second highest drug rate in the state of California, right? My senior high school. It's not better on the other side. And that was one of the things that propelled me to go in the spiritual way in life, because it was like, bro, I grew up with people who have money. It don't make you happy, dog. We grew up with money. It didn't make us more happy. You know what I'm saying? I have cousins who live in the hood that are gangsters, right? Their life's not happy, right? Everybody that I know, no matter what their situation is, no one's happy. So what is the purpose of life? What are we doing here? Right? I'm supposed to make more money. I remember, bro, one of the things when I decided I wanted to convert, this is years ago. It's like, what, 2011, 2000. I converted in 2000. It was like 2011. I really made the decision. I was going back and forth prior to that when I was at the Kabbalah Center. But I just remember, bro, I got like a massive wire deposit in my account from a TV show that I did, right? Jerk All Stars. And I executive produced it. I wrote some of the episodes, and I also co-created it. So I was very much a part of the show, right? So it was like six figures, nothing crazy. But the point is, just imagine you wake up, that's in your bank. What did I do? Bro, I just took a taxi and I went to a car dealership and I just swiped my credit card and left with, a convertible. Mercedes with rims, 19s, AMG, kissed the whole thing. Then after that, I went to this restaurant on Sunset, and I just literally ordered all these things on the menu because I just wanted to like have all these things on the table. I was by myself, right? And I just remember sitting there and I looked over and I saw a bunch of other guys that were like older type business guys, and they had their meals and they were eating, and some people were still reading newspaper. You know what I mean? It was like that type. That's how old school they were. And I just remember and said like, bro, this can't be my life, bro. This can't be my future. You're just a guy. You just keep doing more deals, this, whatever. You make some money. What? There has to be more than this. Like, what am I supposed to just end up back in Calabasas, or would I move up in the game? I move to Bel Air, right? What is that? There's no kedusha there, right? And then you get into the religious world, right? And in the religious world, at first you're like, oh wow, all this kedusha. Yeah, the Torah is holy, right? And there are some people who are living by the Torah, but the vast majority of people are not. For the vast majority of Jews, it's just a tradition. Like Christians. Like Christians have their tradition, Muslims have their tradition. So we have traditions. They don't know any of this. They don't want to learn about it. These are guys who go to yeshiva. These are guys who immerse themselves in Torah. This is the smallest percentage of Jews. Like the minority of Jews are the ones who are learning. Most Jews are not into this. So when you get into this world and you explore more, you're by yourself. Now you could build yourself and you could meet like-minded people. Like I met you and other people. I met a lot of people that like I have hundreds of friends. Here in this country. But and I'm saying when I say friends, people that I consider friends, I could call and ask for a favor, whatever, or they could do the same to me. But the reality is, you're walking by yourself out here, right? And don't expect your wife to be on this journey with you. Women are not. That's not. I mean, I've never seen it. And women who are on this journey tend to be too masculine. You know what I'm saying? Like they think they're men. You know what I'm saying? So the woman is feminine and she could support and be a cheerleader, right? And even get into it on her own level. But no, you're walking by yourself. And so one of the biggest things I learned here in Israel is how to be alone in thought, but still connected to everybody, right? Because we can't let the fact that we're alone in thought, that I see the world differently than everyone else. I have different aspirations than everybody, right? Even my fellow Jewish brothers, I have different aspirations. You have to be okay with that and still connect to everyone at their level. A lot of people get alone in thought and then they isolate themselves, right? And then that's where the Satan comes in, right? And so we don't want to do that. We want to be like Abraham. After he had his bris milah, he was outside of his tent looking for guests. Yes, I just did the bris milah. I am out of here. I'm seeing things I never saw before. My reality is different. I'm at a higher state of consciousness than I've ever been before. And how did he reconcile that? By being out in front of his tent looking for guests, right? And saying, like, you know what? I want to serve other people. I have to stay connected to Malchus, right? So you could be alone in thought, but you have to connect to other people, right? Okay, so he says that even if he says, and even if such a person reached the age of 100 already, it is as one who already passed and disappeared from the world. Velo od ele, I'm not so clear enough. Velo od el ela she'ima techalalit barit adam. He said, furthermore, for the purpose of man's creation, where for the sake of this world it would not have been necessary to imbue him with such lofty and external souls greater than even the angels. Woo! That's a big one. That's a big one. And you could use this one when you talk to people. Like people say, this. If the world was only created for, he said, if the human being was only made for this reality, why would he have to give us this divine soul and give us the spiritual status even above angels if we're just for this world, right? Kol shekein shei eina motza, sorry, motz shumanachat rucha baklal ma'i nu'eze ha'olam. Especially so when the soul finds no satisfaction whatsoever from all the pleasures of this world. Avraham Avinu, and this is what our sages teach us in the Midrash Kohelet, but the soul will not be fulfilled. We are not built for this world. We are spiritual beings. What is this? What is this? What is this compared to? To the case of a common peasant who married the king's daughter. Even if he brought her all that the village possessed, it would be as nothing to her, for she is the king's daughter. So too with the soul. If you would bring her all the pleasure of the world, they would be like nothing to her, for she is from a higher world. Amen. This is what America don't want you to know. America don't want you to know none of this could fulfill you, none of it, their degrees, their riches, their status, their fame, their foods, and all this. You're only going to want more afterwards. None of it will sustain you. The only thing that will give us a glimpse of what will sustain us is the Torah. Why? Because it gives us an insight to the world to come. And because of the connection to the world to come, we connect to the aspect of that halak from Shemaim that we could bring into this world right now and live in a place of Kedusha, which is only a taste of the real world. And it's only a taste, but it's a far infinitely greater level than the people living in sin. Vekin amru rabotenu lezikaronam alibracha. Ala karachachaka va'ata no tsar ve'ala karachachaka ve'ata nolad. So he says, likewise, our sages of blessed memory taught us against against your will were you formed, and against your will you were born. Woo! He is going hard right now. Ram Kal, how at your boy? Rabbi Moshe Lazato. So he says, and for the soul, so he says, likewise, the sage above me. We said we didn't ask our parents to conceive us. Maybe not. Maybe we're going to something different. And we didn't ask to be born. Right? You see, kids take their parents to court because they gave birth to them. The soul does not love this world at all. On contrary, it despises it. If so, certainly the creator, blessed be his name, would never have created something for the purpose which is against its nature and despise it. So let's understand, how could the soul despise this world if God put it in this world? What's going on? Ella bari tot shel ha'adam. Rather man's creation was for his state in the world to come. Therefore, this soul was placed in him, for it benefits the soul to serve God, and through it a man will be rewarded in its proper time and place. Thus, this world would not be something despised to his soul, but rather beloved and cherished by it. This is evident. Vehine achar sheya da'anu ze. Behold, after knowing all this, we will immediately realize the grave obligation of the commandment upon us and the preciousness of divine service which lies in our hands. For these are the means which lead us to true perfection. Without them, this state will not be obtained in the least. ואולם וידוע כי אינה החלית מגיעה אליה מקוחה. So he says, and know that it is known that a purpose is not obtained without the combined contribution of all the means found and employed to achieve it. He says, accordingly, he says, according to the capacity of the means and their use will be resulting achievements of the purpose of any slight deviation found and employed means will be noticeably and in result derives from their combined contribution. This self-evident. So let's try to figure out what's being said here. He's saying, it is known that the purpose is not obtained without the contribution of all means. So what are we talking about being created? Divine service. So all the things, you have to bring all these things together. And he says, but if you deviate, the end product of what you're going to create is not going to work. There's no shortcuts, right? I tell these guys, they're dating girls. It's like, bro, don't sleep with her. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to marry her, don't sleep with her, right? Now, if you're not going to marry her and you guys decide that relationship, that's another halakhic issue. We'll deal with that. But the point is saying, if you're going to marry her, don't sleep with her. Why? Because once you create that, once you go through the marriage, you can still have great success, right? And holy children, the whole thing, right? And every situation is different, right? So some people, they have relationships, then they get married. But it should be done in kosher, right? Meaning the woman's not in nida, right? That you guys are both in a consent and kavana of what you guys are doing and the implications of deviation. But why am I making this point? because the dating process starts with the intention when a guy goes out and seek a matchmaker or he approaches the girl himself, and that intention determines the house that he's going to be living in with her eventually. So if he has the intentions of purity, he's going to build a pure house. If he has the intentions of selfishness, he's going to create that. He says, so he said, it's obvious, therefore, that we must be meticulous to the utmost degree in the manner of observance of the commandments and the service of God, just as a merchant of gold and precious gems are meticulous to the utmost precision in weighing them due to their precious value. For the fruits of the commandments are the true perfection and eternal preciousness, of which there is nothing more precious. Nim senu le madime ki achar mesi ut ha'adam be'olam hazeh hu rach lechaya matzvot. So he says, to summarize, what we have learned, the primary purpose of man's existence is in this world, is solely to fulfill the Torah in service of God and to stand up to the trials that we're faced with. That's it. That's it. Ve'hana'od ha'olam ein re'ui shehivu lo ele vele azir ule says ule shi uda. No, sorry, I thought Nasu. Uli si you ah. And so he says the pleasure of this world should only be used for aiding and assisting him. That's it. That's rearranged luxury. Luxury isn't the goal. Luxury is there just to help support you serve God. So if you want to take a break, you want to rest, you want to do this, you want to go on vacation, it's because you want to rest yourself to serve God better. Yes, you can go on the vacation. Yes, you can go and take your wife to a fancy meal. Yes, you can buy her a beautiful dress. Yes, you could buy jewelry. But the point is, what am I doing it for? Am I doing it for the pleasure of her response, or am I doing it to serve God by creating shalom bayis, by bringing her chana, by bringing her chen, bringing her grace, right? If I go on a vacation, I'm going there to create shalom bayis, to spend time. But for me, you could be learning with me, but you decide to do it like this. And so he says, okay, hold on, let's read that. He said, Veha no ha'olam. He said the pleasures world. So the pleasure world should be there to so that he may have tranquility and peace of mind in order to service his heart to God. That's it. You want a calm environment, so you may need to buy a big house. Ve nam ve re'ui lo. He says, and thus it is proper that all the men incline to solely to be solely blessed in the Creator. To be so, it's proper for all a man's inclination be solely to the blessing to the blessed Creator, and that all of his actions, great or small, have no other purpose than to draw down to God. Blessed be he, and to break down all the barriers separating him from this matter, which are all the matters of physicality and things dependent on them, until he is drawn down towards the blessed God, like Aaron, like an iron is drawn to a magnet. Ve'kol ma sheyikal lechashov. So he says shefu. And he says, and nothing he deems to in anything that he deems to mean servicing, drawing him closer to God, he will chase after it and hold on to it. So anything that brings you, you're already doing that, right? But we got to do more. Ve'kolma sheyuchal. So he says, in anything that deems to be detrimental to him, he will flee from it, run, like Yosef Asadik. Similar to his written, my soul clings to you, and your right is upon me. He says, for this for his coming to this world is only for the purpose, namely to obtain closeness by rescuing his soul from whatever hindrance to in detriment to it. So coming to this world is only for the purpose to make that decision, right? The only purpose is to make that decision, to be like, this is holy, this is not holy, this is going to be closer to God, this is not going to be closer to God. That's why we have television, because we need the option. We need to see what filth and stupidity is, and we'd be able to look at that and be like, you tell me that's light versus what Hashem has for me. Behine achar sheyada adnu. So he says, behold, after we have known this general principle and clarified it in its veracity, we must investigate on its details according to the sages from the beginning to the end, as Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair arranged in his teachings, which we brought in this introduction. These steps are watchfulness, zeal, cleanliness, separation, purity, piety, humility, fear of sin, and holiness. So he says, and now we will clarify we will clear them one by one with God's help. So we can stop here. Thoughts, reflections.
I mean, it's major. Major. It's one of those things. Fundamentally, I think this should be like the introduction to a lot of people, like
Period.
from the basis, because it breaks down, the matrix, breaks
Period.
down, why you're here. Why, it actually gave me clarity on a verse that I've been wondering about for a while. When at the end of David Hamelech's life, he's talking to Shlomo and he tells him, "Show yourself and be a man." And I was like, "What is he talking about though? Like, show yourself and be a man. Like, what does that mean?" But here it tells you, what is it to be a man? Stand up to these trials and tribulations. You were designed for it. You were built for it. You were built for these trials. You were built for these tribulations because it's not for this world. It's for the next world. You're not supposed to find peace and tranquility in this world. Look at Yaakov Avinu's life. He's the greatest tzaddik we've ever seen. But his life is trial after trial after trial because it's preparing him for the next world. Same with Avraham Avinu. Same with all the forefathers. Trial after trial. Our mothers bearing this, the things they're going through because it's preparation for the next world. So I've heard that the next world is it's a world of receipts. It's a world of receipts. It's not a world where you can do. It's what have you done? So
I like that.
powerful, 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 powerful.
No, because people say that, man. I come with receipts. That's what they're gonna be saying to you in the day of judgment.
Yeah, I got this. Don't matter. Whatever see that.
No, that's big.
So yeah, love this one. This one, the combination of this and Kav Hayashar, man.
That's it. That's it, bro. That's it.
Man.
That's it, bro. But these are your safers, though, bro. We're learning these safers. You're going to be teaching these safers. Path of the just, you're gonna master the safer. We're gonna go through it, but we're gonna go through everything. We're gonna go through all 100 chapters together, Kav HaYashar, but you're gonna still have to go back and master these lessons, right? Because you're gonna have to meet your students and be able to fill them out and be like, he needs lesson 15, he's struggling in this area, he needs chapter 20 over here, he needs some Ramchal by this, okay, boom. And then because that's the thing, we're under attack. Black people specifically, African Americans, our character traits are under attack. They have convinced us that there is no morality, there is no character traits, there is no restrictions. It's just animals, right? And so the only way we're going to fix that is by taking groups of guys aside who are serious and to open up them to go on the same journey we're on, right? Which is being able to go into the sources and to be able to go and refine your character, take back your character back, take your ethics and morals back. This system is Satan. The whole thing is Satan. The food, the education system, the education making the women, they're the sharecroppers now. They're holding down the brothers now. They're like, no, y'all don't need white people no for sharecroppers. We got this. And I'm not trying to diss. I'm just saying this is what we're up against. And the only way we could transform our communities as men is by changing our character. It's not on the women. It's not on the society. It's not on the government. It's not all that's supposed to be a challenge to us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We just learned that last chapter. We're supposed to have it. So the issue by us is that. So these safers are so important to us, and we're gonna have more, right? But this is just these are just that, and I'll tell you, yeshiva, they hit you with that path that is just off the top. Mm-hmm. Most guys you see in yeshiva have that book in their hand. Okay, like when they first start off, because that's how they start you off. They start you off with not start off. We're talking about the high level. Okay, this is like high level. You know what I'm saying? And so anyways, we'll keep going. We'll end it right here. If you want to do Kal Yashar later on, I'm pretty sure I'll be open. I don't think I'll be doing anything with any of the podcast stuff. So I'm pretty sure I'll be open. So if you want to do 30 minutes, Kal Yashar. It only took us 25 minutes last time, right? So you could do it on your lunch break if you want. But I should be around. But the key thing is these Sepharim, bro, because we have to have students. Like, I mean, it's good for me and you. We could blast off and we could be on Pluto. We just out of here. You know what I'm saying? But what brings us down and fulfill this opportunity, right, of mitzvahs is to help others become near, right? And as others become near, we understand ourselves more, right? So it's just saying that these Sepharim, because a lot of teachers, they want you to follow them, right? Because they'll come in, oh, they got all this information. They'll run the same sefer, but never mention the sefer to you. And they'll just come and say it over themselves, right? And you're like, wow, this guy has so much wisdom, or this woman has so much wisdom. Wow, let me put their own spin on it. That's not how I was trained. I was trained to empower. I came from the yeshiva system. I'm not a guru. I'm a teacher. You know what I'm saying? And so you give people the tools to be great. That's like my rabbis gave me the tools. Rabbi Pinchas isn't like Chief Rabbi Pinchas. He doesn't tell me what to do. I ask him for advice because I believe in his leadership, in his wisdom, in his purity, in his sanctity, because I've seen it with my own eyes, right? And so, but at the end of the day, I got to make my own decisions. I'm running North America. It's not like it's not like I work for him in North America. No, North America is me. I have their endorsement, right? So it's just saying that he knows that we're going to be learning, different stuff that they may not be learning. They learn a lot of Benny Sky. I haven't got, Benny Sky is amazing. You know what I'm saying? But you know what I mean? Everyone has their flow, So the point is just saying, so the key thing is here is for us to create students that are able to create more students. And that's how this thing is going to grow. And yeah, people think centralized leadership is like a thing, but I think what centralized leadership is that when people are on their own path and they have someone else to talk to and someone to go over and someone to strengthen their direction. That's what I believe teachers and leaders are about. It's not like, oh, well, I got this. No, everyone has their own journey. It may be overlap, right? But that's the key. So these are the Sepharim that we're learning, obviously, for our own growth first, to improve our lives and our family and our community. But the main thing is mastering the Sepharim and understanding them and reflecting on them, because you're going to be teaching us, right? You're going to have students and they're going to be like, hey, we're going to start here. And it takes the pressure off you. You don't got to be a guru. You just introduce them to Ramchal. He took it somewhere. I don't want to take it what Ramchal took it. I just want to take it what Mordecai is supposed to take it to. You know what I'm saying? But I can learn from Ramchal's journey, right? So these are the Sepharim. And then we got that Rav Ashlag. Don't forget about Rav. You know what I mean? Because his whole introduction to the Zohar and Kabbalah, this is huge for our people. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like we need to reconstruct reality, because we've been given a false understanding of reality. And the beauty is that because for white people, it's hard to let go, because they let go, then they're equals. It's hard to be equal if you thought you were superior the whole time. You know what I'm saying? So it's easy for us to let things go. Hey, black people, Islam came. Hey, my name is Malcolm. Malcolm Jamal Ahmed Muhammad Ali. We didn't even hesitate to get rid of that Bob Smith name. You know what I'm saying? So it's just saying. So we have that capacity, which is also a very holy attribute, right? And something to be reflected on. But either way, we'll keep pushing it. But yeah, I just want to emphasize at the end that this is like we got to have students. and truly your growth is going to come from students. I mean, obviously your wife is your first student, right? You're her rabbi, right? And so that's the reality. So that's the first thing. And that's a different type of teaching than, you know, how we talk, right? So it's a different type of teaching. A lot of things with women is just action, right? Like for example, when you started, we're learning and you come in like, hey, we on fire. I'm on a different level. Wifey's like, hey, I got to get in there too. Don't leave me behind. You know what I'm saying? Same thing about my wife. Everybody, all women are like this. My mom always says, women understand one language, following. But the thing is, the man has to be on his thing. She will come. It's her nature to just come in. But when we're on that derrick, when we're on that vision, and we're doing that, right? When we're living in that way, right? And doing these things, then it's like, hey, you know what? If we're doing those things, they're gonna follow, bro. And not only them, everyone else we know, but we have to be on that derrick. We got to be clean. We got to live it, not this fake stuff that our community's been exposed to of, people, trying to manipulate money and this whole thing. We got to do it the right way. The Black community deserves to see Siddiqui, not these like, snake oil preachers. Anyways, Baruch Atah Adonai, Leolam Amen V'Amen. So God willing, B'vat Hashem later on, we'll do Kaf